I admitted to the professor that he outclassed me in theology and linguistics, but explained that I felt the claims about physical science that Schroeder had made were important. What Schroeder was really trying to show was that the scientific biblical debate was a myth. They aren't really in conflict. Chris, one of the favorite methods of apologists is to reverse terminology. Since you're obviously articulate, may I assume that you are relatively young? My experience has been that, in nearly all cases, those as articulate as you, who present the position you do, are not old enough to have encountered the huge number of ways that that posture makes relatively little sense. To call the scientific biblical debate a myth is truly astonishing. Among educated people, the doctrinal underpinnings of the Bible have been known to be mythological for centuries. Have you read Robert Ingersoll's Some Mistakes of Moses as one example? The Tower of Babel story alone, to anyone with knowledge of historical linguistics, is monumentally preposterous. I had also told him how, in light of his opinions of the book, his statement that, "If the book makes sense to me, then it helps me at this stage of my life," seemed condescending. To this he responded, "I'm sorry that was your interpretation. My comment was intended instead to be kind. Would you be willing, by the way, to tell me how old you are and what your academic background has been?" "I'm 21, I said. I'm a computer science major at KU. I've taken many advanced mathematics, for example, advanced calculus, logic-based mathematics, algorithm analysis, intermediate scientific, biology, chemistry, and physics, and introductory linguistics and culture courses. Obviously, the pyramid of emphasis is upside down from the educational emphasis in yours. Still, I would hope that you don't discount my ability to reason, despite my lack of literary education and my youth. I know that many people my age effectively shout their opinions with their eyes closed and their hands over their ears, not intending to know the truth if the truth conflicts with what they believe. I assure you, I am not one of these people. If I find the truth, I take it, bitter or not. I seek the truth above all things, and if the truth is not in what I believe, I will accept it, given that it really is the truth. I plan on reading A History of God and at least skimming through who wrote the New Testament. I have no doubt that I may not have a definitive or even acceptable conception of God. It is of the utmost importance to me that I understand how other people have portrayed God, and to be sure that I'm not basing my view of God off of some concept invented by an ancient culture for their own benefit, or that I'm not inventing my own view for my own benefit. I've enjoyed our discussion thus far, and I appreciate your participation. I don't know how old you are, but considering that you attended the University of Madrid in 1961, I'd say you have quite a bit more experience with the world than I do. Honestly, I've never had an intellectual discussion, other than those with professors related to coursework, with someone so much older than myself. First, with no flattery intended, let me say that I genuinely like the way you come across. I would say that you are more advanced in general than I was at your age. In terms of searching for the truth, you sound exactly like me. That's how I was when I was your age and how I still am. At this point, he did something that I found both odd and intriguing. He started firmly and almost fanatically discouraging me from having this conversation with him. Let me just say that I strongly feel that it is most often a great disservice to attempt to disenchant relatively young people regarding specific religious belief. I am very happy that my wife and I were sincere and devout Christians when we were in our 20s and well into our 30s. That orientation focused us and served us well, sparing us many difficulties that our non-Christian friends experienced. It is not to your advantage that I go on in explanations along the line that I have been. For you, if you're generally happy with the religious faith that you have, it's probably very important for you to continue in it and not sweat the details. Ultimate truths aside, there is little to be gained by going from the religiously questioning frying pan to the "oh, so that's how it works" fire. Someone with your quality of mind is going to find the answers if they keep digging. But if you are comfortable in your faith, and especially if you enjoy the company of your fellow believers more than the company of non-believers, then please just accept the subject matter the way it is being presented to you by your pastor or priest, and concentrate your efforts on your studies. I recommend that you not worry about evidence one way or the other, and concentrate on the rest of your life, career, family, or whatever. Sorting out religious teachings and history is a quagmire that can only disrupt your peace of mind toward your career goals at this stage of your life. I think that it is not in your best interest to know how I think, especially since you do appear to be able to grasp my explanations. If you find Schroeder's explanations satisfactory to you, then stay with them. I was a bit perplexed. In all honesty, I don't feel that my state of mind is as delicate as you're implying. I can't just jump off this path. I feel that this is the direction that God Himself wants me to take. I do love the people of my church, but I feel they are on a different level rationally. I think they fear the dark waters that I walk into, fear punishment from God, or they've just deduced that no good can come from it, which I have found time and time again to be wrong. They fear science and shun its ideas. In effect, I feel they've turned their backs on truth that is right in front of them. But the cause isn't lost. I learned from them spiritual lessons that I hadn't uncovered myself. They're wiser than I first imagined. And I think the more I get to know them, the more I'll discover what they actually know. And just as it may be a disservice for you to share your fire with me, it may be a disservice for me to throw them into my fire, at least just yet. That last comment reassures me that perhaps you're okay for the path you're on. But be prepared to come to see most of your current church associates as deluded automatons and mental children. The fact that you see them on a different rational level than you is a very wise observation. Religions are not meant primarily to serve people like you and me. They best serve those whom you're describing. So I suddenly felt guilty about what I'd said about the people of the church. Most of them are on fire with love and open-mindedness, even rationality. When I said I was on a different rational level, I didn't necessarily mean a lower level. But different levels must differ in height. Maybe I should have used a different analogy. Rational rooms, maybe. I was struck with this dilemma. Unfortunately, I could see what he was saying. I knew that essentially I was no different from the people at the church I was referring to. We're all human beings. We're all children of God. But I also could not deny the reality that there was a difference between the way that they thought and the way that I thought. And I could not deny that I felt that my own position was more rational and more educated than theirs had usually been. I felt like they were more often fueled by their emotions and personal needs than by a search for truth than I was. I felt like they often gave up on searching for the truth sooner than I did. I resolved that while there was nothing holding the people at church back from taking the rational steps that I had, the reality was they hadn't taken those steps. Yet. I felt the presence of God pressuring me further to speak to the former Christian from my emails. I would walk further into my journey. Through God's will, I would learn and grow further. Not all Christians were alike, and I knew that God was using the journey of this former Christian to strengthen mine.